Morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee with Casey. This is another edition of where we can sit down and talk about, take an hour out of our month and sit down and talk about some topics that are important in real estate and what we do as one of the top teams in Northern Virginia. So this morning, I have a treat. Now, I didn't find out until yesterday that Kelly has not been on Coffee with Casey yet. She doesn't like being on Coffee with Casey, but she's agreed to be on it. And my other daughter, Morgan, is on it with me. And because today's discussion is about style. Today's discussion is about condition, is about what buyers are looking for. You know, I've said a million times the most important thing you can do with a house is price the house. That is the key to our success. That is why we do $80, $90, $100 million a year. That is why our track record is so solid, is because we focus on the most important thing, which is pricing. But right along with it is the condition of the house. So today we want to focus in on what is it the buyers are looking for, what's our second step in our process. So when we go to a listing presentation, we'll sit down with the seller, and I want to talk to them about, not about Casey Samson Team or Samson, I want to talk to them about what their expectations are, what their timetable is. I need to know about the house. I need to know what their expectation of pricing is. And once we're kind of on agreement with everything, that we can accomplish their goals, then the next step is very important. We'll take a walk through the house. Now, what we're going to see when we walk through this house is a spectrum. And just like anything else, it's the 80-10-10 rule. 10% are dumpster fires, have not been updated in 40 years. 10% are don't touch a thing, let me go get a cameraman. But 80% of the houses are in that spectrum. They're somewhere between dumpster fire and ready for a photog. So what Kelly and I have been working together for 6 or 7 years, and I knew how valuable she was when we walked out of a house one time, and it was, what was the name of that one? The old house that was, here, you hold this. It was built like in 1800s or something, and I walked out and said, oh, the house looks good to me, and you said, you got to be kidding me. They've got a purple wall. And remember we started dissecting what was wrong with that house? So we went back in, and I said, let me take one more look at this. And it was like, yeah, it does look pretty bad. So at that point, it was probably 6 or 7 years ago, we really started focusing on, getting these houses ready, getting the proper colors, setting them up for today's buyers, which are 20, 30, or 30-somethings, the same style and thing that they're looking for. So Morgan came on board, and she's been very successful in her business. And so, but I want her to come to work with us because I knew how valuable she was. So the first thing Morgan did when she got to our team was tell me that my website was not good enough, and that Julie and I had focused on making the homes look so nice and the spark pages and presentations online that we had neglected our own website. So basically we were comfortable with our website, but it got old and stale and we didn't even know it. So it took somebody new to walk in and say, the website is not up to par, we need to redo it. So we've redone the whole website, and now it looks beautiful. And Julie's done a great job on that, and everything on that website is not canned. Everything on that website is how we think it should be done, how the pricing is done, the condition is done, da-da-da-da-da. So it's a very informative website. It's got a lot of information on it. But Morgan went beyond that to dissect the conditions of the house. And by doing so, we went to the National Kitchens and Baths Association. We looked at all of their reports. We went to 100 new houses. We went to all the kitchens and baths. We interviewed interior designers. So all of this came out to a summary of how to summarize what we're about to say today. And, we've been doing this now for the last 2 or 3 months. It's been hugely successful on communicating to a seller how we are here and we need to get to there. Okay? So that's going to be the discussion today, and it's kind of how we got here, but it's a very, very valuable discussion because your house needs to be priced correctly and it needs to be staged or in the proper condition for the sale. Now, we're not going to talk about the coolest, weird things. We're trying to neutralize the house, and the reason is this. I've sold cool houses before, and a wife will walk in, a wife and husband will walk in, and the wife loves this house. Has to have it. 222 Lawyers. It was an old house. It was beautiful. It was gorgeous. Wife had to have it. Husband wouldn't have it because I always say there's a child. Oh, I love it. And then there's an adult. Practicality. Not a practical house. So the goal here, and then the very next couple could come in and the husband would love it, and the wife was more of the practical one. So this is a function of getting a house in a condition where both husband and wife will both agree. We can get the maximum amount of buyer pool because you can get the husband and wife to agree. So first of all, let's talk about the spectrum and where we are. One thing we found out, I put a name on it, I guess, is that most people live in a traditional house. And we grew up in a traditional house, and we like traditional house, and we're going to define what a traditional house is. But today's buyers, when we go to the surveys and studies, they're just confirming what we've already kind of felt, and that was that buyers are looking for, 90% of buyers are looking for a transitional home. So we're going to define traditional, we're going to define transitional, we're going to go over the 10 items you can do for free to turn your house from traditional to conditional, transitional. We need new names. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that you put a name on it, but the traditional and transitioning
to contemporary.
I was thinking about it as I was driving in today, and I'm driving through Vienna, and I'm like, you can just, it's even in the house styles, not the interior design, but the house styles. So in the 90s, we would build the colonials, and they're brick, right? Well, now you have everyone building the arts and crafts with stone and hardy plank and things like that. So that was the traditional. The transitional is the arts and craftsy style houses, but you start to see that 10% of contemporary houses, right? And you and I have been to some really nice ones. The one on Jonas was phenomenal, and they did everything right. And the other one was kind of done everything wrong, but it was a contemporary house. So we're starting to see a little bit that go all the way to contemporary, which is a smaller buyer pool. But I will say this, and we can talk a little bit about the Amazon thing. But now we're gonna have a lot of West Coast buyers, a lot of high tech people coming into town. Tyson's is booming. Tyson's is gonna put in 100,000 jobs. Amazon is gonna have 25,000 plus an additional $50,000 worth of people, vendors that try to sell to them. So we're going to see more, I think, of a West Coast audience coming in, that's a West Coast kind of style, But it's funny, as I was driving through Vienna, I'm like, it's the same thing with the housing style. That was old, that was traditional. This is transitional, and now you got some of the contemporaries starting to come in. So first of all, let's go to the traditional style home and the interior that we see a lot of, right? And when we go in, I know that this seller spent a lot of money on these curtains, right? But that's a traditional look. And the shears all over the place. And so for years we say those have to come down. And now it is more of a look, that's a traditional look.
And they're wondering why you want them to take down their amazing curtains that they spent thousands of dollars on.
Because it's a traditional look. And I think that, when we look at some of the characteristics of it, the deep colors, showing a lot of wood. I walked into a house and all of the trim was wood, and that was really big in 80s and 90s and things like that. So very nicely stained wood all over the place, the trim, the crown molding, everything.
Paint it white.
Yeah.
It's hard to say paint it white.
But
it's what buyers want.
yeah, paint it white.
But when you look at it and say the traditional way is to do it with the wood, but the transitional is what everybody's looking for, and that is white.
Yeah.
It is gray walls and white things. And again, it's, the one thing we have to remember is that our sellers who are traditional people, old 50, 60, 70-year-old, may want to be in traditional, or have lived in traditional for 20 or 30 years, but we've got to get it ready for the 30-somethings, and that's that, neutral colors and the whites. Although I will say this, and I mean to a T, when the sellers leave, 50, 60-somethings, and they go buy something in South Carolina or Florida or someplace else, I can tell you, it's a transitional house, if not a contemporary house. You know,
Yeah.
they'll describe the new faucet and the new this and the new that. It's like, yeah, that's what buyers want. All buyers. So when we set up these houses, we're not just setting them up for the 30-somethings. It's actually for today's buyer, regardless of age, whether it's a 50-something or a 30-something or whatever. So let's go into the kitchens. Let's talk about some of the kitchens, some of the identifying characteristics of traditional. What are some of the things that, you know, come to your mind when we walk into a kitchen and it just screams traditional?
Yeah, dark and big light fixtures. I think recessed lights make a world of difference.
Yeah. So pull. I mean, we had the little light things up there. Pull those out. Get the recessed lights in. The hardware is a true
It will
giveaway.
instantly brighten up a house with a few recessed lights.
Yeah, yeah. And the hardware, which is
Yes.
a lot of brass and gold, is what we've always gone to.
And it's cheap to replace those.
Yeah. You mean,
Really, to replace all the hardware, I mean, you can do that for a couple $100, if
yeah,
that.
Yeah.
And you can do it yourself.
Yeah, that's just a Home Depot thing.
Yeah.
Get some knobs, and we'll go in, and what we do is we'll walk into a kitchen and we'll say, look, do not put a new kitchen in here, but maybe it's just a quick facelift.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a plumbing fixture. Maybe it's, you know, Kelly, there's maybe it was you that remember the kitchen faucet? I was like,
Yeah.
this is a weird kitchen faucet.
Oh,
She
yeah.
goes, yeah, that's what we got in our
Farmhouse,
house.
like, sink. Yeah, he's like, who would want this? I'm like, that's the most expensive sink, and we have.
That's what we have. Well, it wasn't the farm sink. It was
No,
just
no,
this-
no. It
The
was, I forget what
industrial
yeah.
look.
But it's so
yeah.
funny. Who would want this? I'm like, me.
We do. We all do. But so it's the plumbing fixtures in the sink. It is the
And if your
the
sink
lighting
is
fixtures.
gross,
It is.
replace it because you know a sink. You can buy a sink for $200,
Right.
and it will just
staple.
and it'll instantly lift the kitchen and make it look clean and newer. And you know, instead of seeing a rusty, gross sink.
Right. Well, and that's just age. That's not just traditional. That's not the traditional colors and all that. It's just it's got to be
Upkeep.
clean.
Yeah.
It's got to be clean.
Yeah.
Okay. And because you've lived in it, you've seen it every day. Maybe it doesn't look different to you, but it does look different to us. Okay. So now sometimes you have different phases of that kitchen where you can just update it quick with some plumbing fixtures, lighting, and some hardware. Okay. Other times you need to reface cabinets or paint cabinets. Traditionally, they're all brown cabinets, whether it's a cherry or a maple or a, not maple because that's a little lighter, but an oak or something like that. Paint the oak white is
Wheatland Farms painted their cabinets white, and it completely transformed the kitchen.
yeah. Yeah, and that was tough because that was a house built in 1995.
Yeah.
They had done no
Nothing.
renovations, none. Not one renovation in that house. And yet we got full price offer for it pretty quick. Right?
Yeah. And I mean, they put in new hardware. They, you know, updated the sink and they painted the cabinets and it, like power washed the floors and restained the grout. So they didn't even need to put new floors in. Just like a few little tweaks. And I think it completely transformed the kitchen.
Yeah, it is amazing what
Yeah.
we got away with there. Because when we really walked in, it was like...
And they painted the whole house.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
They painted it neutral colors.
Yep.
Okay, so we got them to paint it and lock that down, which was good. So when we come in, you know, we go... Now, let's talk about some of the new things that if somebody really is going to go to a remodeling, you know, what is the new, what is everybody really looking for? Basically, it's shaker cabinets. It's white shaker cabinets. It is quartz countertops. Morgan, you and I, when we go to the kitchens and bath places.
Cambria.
Huh?
The Cambria quartz.
The Cambria quartz.
Countertops.
So don't go, they've got the MS, what is it, the MS1, the inexpensive
Yeah.
quartz.
Yeah.
But go with Cambria. You know, this is something you can get a designer from Home Depot or one of
Is
the
that like a
kitchen stores.
mid-grade?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but it is one of, you know, the more high quality and nicer, but, you know. it
But
isn't
you know what, if
too
you're going to
far.
put in, yeah, it's not, you know,
It's not too crazy expensive
And it's not
over
someplace-
the cheaper one.
right. A Cambria is not a, let's get crazy,
Yeah.
but it's not let's get cheap. Let's just get normal. Let's get what we
Get
need.
the best. It's
So the Cambria
High quality.
and a shaker cabinets, you'll see they're more of the box and just the square in here, and everything is flat and the lines are
Yeah.
clean and all that stuff. So that's what we're seeing a lot of. Not that I'm telling everybody to go out and get shaker cabinets, okay? But that is one of the challenges that we have when we go in is the kitchens and bathrooms what we're going to deal with the kitchens and bathrooms. So,
A bathroom is an easy upgrade. I mean, you can change out a vanity, paint it, and you're good to go.
yeah.
Change out the hardware. I mean, and yeah.
Sinks and plumbing
Yeah.
fixtures and things like that. Yeah, we don't have to rip everything out and put
No.
in new tile and things. Although you look at the new bathrooms, there is the new porcelain tile and it really is sharp.
Yeah.
But a lot of times when we're talking about a bigger investment, we as realtors are focused on not what can we get the biggest bang for the buck. What can we put $1 in and get $3 or $4 back?
Paint.
And we don't really want to spend too much money. So we're going to go over the 10 or 15 things that you can do that don't cost a dime, that take you from that traditional look over to the transitional look. But so we're pretty clear now on the traditional look, and that does include trinkets and
It's very
a lot
antique,
of stuff.
like
Very
a lot of
antique.
antiques, yeah.
Well, and there's things on
China
top of
cabinets,
everything. There's instead of having one like modern plate,
Yeah.
there's 8 or
Lots of
10 different
accessories.
little knickknacks.
Yeah.
A lot of accessories. So Billy and I went to a house the other day, and it was one of those close to the 10%, just let's go get the cameraman and let's get him in here. But it just needed a little stuff like there were Oriental rugs in there, and there was a big plant in there. Plants are very traditional. Big plants, very traditional. Silk flowers, very traditional. Yeah, what?
No, she's like, I said sorry.
Right. Well,
gotta
you're not a
go.
seller, so if you turn into a seller, we get rid of. But what she did was they took out the big plant, they took out all the knickknacks, they cleaned things out, they decluttered some stuff. They had a pedestal which had a very nice vase on it. I'm sure it was a very expensive vase. So that was all gone. And they were thrilled when we went back for our second meeting. They were thrilled at just removing some carpets and thinning things out, how nice it looked. And they're very proud of it when we got back to the house. And yet that was only 5 or 6, basic things that we did. But that traditional look of the big planters, the big plants in the house, we want to think when we think of what?
I was going to say kind of like on Clover Meadow where they had that really nice fireplace and it was just cluttered with plants on it and a
Right.
big, picture. We were able to take that out and it looked night and day. So much better.
It did, and we got a contract. So here's what we do. We'll go in, we'll price a house, we'll stage a house, and the house goes on the market. 85% of them sell within the first 30 days. If it doesn't sell, I go back, and then we go back to this one and found that whether we didn't tell them to get that out of there or but when I went back, there were other tweaks that had to be done to that house to declutter. Let me give you an example. So Morgan's talking about a fireplace. It had a screen in there. It had some this. It had some that. It had old, burnt up logs in the. It's terrible. And
like
it had the big wreath across the fireplace. So we took the wreath down. We got rid of that. We get some nice river birch logs that you can get at Home Depot.
It
or
had a
whatever.
great light shining on it, but it was, covered. You couldn't even see the fireplace because it
So
was
that
just
was
covered
totally
with everything.
cleaned out. Then we moved the price from $825 to $800, where there was a bigger buyer pool. We had 3 contracts within a week. So that's what we're talking about. It's pricing and it's condition, but it's that little stuff that costs them no money, but in 5 minutes they turn that whole fireplace look from a traditional ugly or dirty to very clean, very stylish, and very accepting to the majority.
And it changed the whole look of the family room, I think. I mean, it just made it feel, I don't know, cozy but clean and, bigger.
So when we come through, that's basically what we're talking about when we're dealing with these sellers. So the bathrooms and the other thing is you're walking through a house, and I'm sure people are listening can check it off right now. Other things that we look for are the hardware in your doorknobs. Are they gold? Are they brass? Those are, when we get to the costs that you can do, that you get return on investment, we'll talk about that in a minute. But that's another thing a traditional house will have. They'll have gold knobs and gold everything, gold hardware. Gold in the bathroom, which is really tough because if we run into a tub that has the big gold, knobs, those are hard to get rid of. I mean, you just have to work around that. Gold, frames on the bathroom. Those date a house. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to sell a 2018 house, and we're trying not to make it look like 1990 or 1995. So, but those are other things. The shag carpeting, some of the older carpeting that either needs to be removed or those are kind of some of the traditional looks.
Textured Berber.
And mirrors.
Texture burger.
Yeah.
And mirrors. Well, mirrors new.
Yeah.
Mirrors. We want mirrors.
Well, no, you need new mirrors. Yeah.
New mirrors.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
you
what I
mean in
meant.
bathrooms?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But it's also, when we talk about the traditional, I mean, you'll see these things. We have all our houses. They're basically on canvas and, frameless and all that stuff. A lot of the stuff that you're seeing now with the artwork that are on a lot of the walls are really not framed or smaller frames. They're not the big ornate frames. So the big ornate frames in hallways sometimes block the hallway or clot it, or just give you that more of that traditional kind of feel and look, and to replace that with something less expensive but more modern is a nice touch as well. So let's just whip real quick to the transitional style, what that looks like, okay, or what that's supposed to be. Again, we're shooting for neutral. Why? We need the husband and wife to agree. We need the biggest buyer pool. We're not looking for, when I say there's a theory of 80-10-10 in this world, look at politics, 10 to the left, 10 to the right, far left, far right, 80% most people are in that spectrum. So in the buyer pool, think the exact same way. The 10 are looking for extremely contemporary, 10 are looking for, I'm not sure what the heck they're looking for, but 80% are in that spectrum of transitional stuff, that they're doing. So we're trying to get that 80% buyer pool that will accept what we're doing, okay? So, the neutral walls, we're talking about the
Neutral's pretty much a blank canvas too. So if the wife is super artistic or they've got a very eclectic taste, they can change it how they want, and you can do that with a gray or tan wall.
Right.
And white trim and, very just clean lines, new hardware, they won't have to change too much to make it their own.
Let's stop with the grays. Okay. So when we come into a house, there's a whole spectrum of gray. I mean, some grays have blue in it, some have beige in it, some have this and some that. So if the house is in a beige step and we want to just do some rooms, we don't want to do the whole house, there's a grayish that blends the gray and the tans and beiges together, right? And what's your favorite one? You usually go with
My favorite's the Benjamin Moore Revere Pewter.
Revere Pewter, and I like
because it picks up the tans,
right?
And it also will pick up the grays.
Yeah, and I like the Sherwin-Williams. I like the Mindful Gray and the Dorian Gray. And the reason I pick these is because I go to the new homes and find the ones I really like, and like Jefferson Homes, these are the kind of color patterns that they have, and they'll have one for the bathroom. But basically, the Mindful Gray, which is a little darker, will be warmer and in the rooms, and the Dorian will be in the hallways because it's a little bit lighter. So light in the hallways, a little touch darker, but the contrasting colors when you get in there. But, this is what the people at Sherwin-Williams or at Benjamin Moore can help you on, but usually what we guide people on. I mean, there's some pretty standard colors that we like to look at, when we're advising people on what to do with the colors. But let's continue on with what the transitional house is. It is clean, it is decluttered, it is painted, it has the window treatments are out. The shutters are in, but we're not going to put shutters in. We're just going to take the window treatments out. And if they won't take them all out, then at least let's get the shears out of that house. Okay? So the neutral floors and kitchens and hardware, and that's the kind of stuff that we're looking for in these houses. So as we go walking around, and we don't walk around every house because, that meeting is very critical. When we first meet with the seller, we need to know, can I even satisfy what your needs are, I need to get 1.4 million. Well, it's worth 1.2 million. I need 1.4. Well, it's going to take you 6 to 8 months or 12 months or 2 years to figure out that you're only going to get 1.2. So some people we can't help, but most people, when we get through that period and we go through the house, Then we start working on what to do to the house, okay, to get it into this transitional stage. So, Kelly, first let's go over the less is more theory as we're walking through the house, okay?
Yes. Less is definitely more. I mean, I want to see nothing. If it was up to me, I would have all the tables clear.
You're a strip miner.
Yeah, the cabinets, the countertops clear, nothing on the tables, have like 2 pillows on the couch, and that's it.
Right. And
I don't want to see other people's stuff.
right.
I mean, basically, I don't care about your stuff. I just want to see the space of the house. Is this going to work for me? Is it going to work for my furniture? Because if you're walking in, you're thinking about, putting your stuff in.
I love her, man.
Yeah.
She goes in and she tells it
wants
like
to
it
see
is.
your
And I'm
family
standing there going,
portraits. Get that
I'm
up.
kind of keeping an eye on the cellar sometime going, wonder what they're going to react. But, Kelly is effective and she's one of my
Well,
hired
I'm a
guns.
buyer.
You're the buyer.
So I
And
want,
you tell it like it is. There's no.
When I'm looking for a house, I want to see, is my couch going to fit here? Can I fit all this? Are we going to have enough room for the kids?
Right.
And so sometimes if it's overrun by clutter or knickknacks and stuff, you can't really get a feel for the space.
Well, and as we say, we're not trying to sell your vase.
Yeah.
We're trying to sell the house. I don't want to see the vase. Don't try and distract this buyer's vision from the architectural stuff with the windows or the space of the couch and space, feature, and function of this house. Don't try and draw our attention to something that you want us to see, like a elephant that you got that's a nice artistic piece.
We had one house, I can't remember the name. I had no idea that they had any molding or wainscoting or anything because it was completely overrun by furniture and
I know the house.
yeah,
I
I
can't-
can't remember the name.
Right.
And once
We
they
didn't know it
moved,
had wainscoting because there's so much stuff
there
in
was
the living
so
room.
much stuff in the living room you could not even see it.
Yeah.
And then they removed it, and it was like, oh my gosh, look at all this detail that you've been hiding, and a buyer would never even see that.
Clutter robs space.
Yeah.
And clutter, when a person walks out of their house, they're only going to remember certain things. Was it a light house or a dark house? Did it have big hallways? Did I feel like it was a roomy place? So the 10 things you can do that don't cost you a nickel to take your house from that traditional house to a transitional house is the declutter steps. Get rid of the screens on your windows. Screens on your windows are very functional, but they make it look dirty. They rob us of our light. They rob us of our sparkle. So take the mirrors. We have them, tag them, put them in the basement, and leave them there.
The screens,
The screens. What'd I say?
mirrors.
The screens.
We know
Take
what you
the
meant.
screens out. Take the window treatments off. Now, a lot of times that's where you get your pushback because they spend a lot of money on those curtains, but we're not selling curtains. We're selling light. We're selling, we want them to have that
And it's
feel.
2 months. I mean, you're going to have to take them down anyway
Yeah.
to bring them with you, so just take them down. And, you're selling light and space.
Right. And when we take those down, we leave the hardware up.
Yes.
A lot of it is nice decorative hardware. So leave the hardware up. But and if you don't take those, at least get the shears down. Because shears is something, Kelly doesn't want to buy her mother's house.
No.
No offense to the mothers, but the girls don't want to buy their mom's house, okay? So shears is a very 80s, 90s thing. It is not a 2018 thing. So the shears have to go. So basically, we're talking about removing things, window treatments, curtains, screens, knickknacks. They don't want to see a bunch of knickknacks on a table. If it's clean, they're looking for clean lines. So what does it cost you to pack that up? Nothing.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're moving more transitional. We're thinning out the bookcases. A bookcase may be packed with stuff that mean a lot to you, but not to the buyers. Just make it look clean and get these things thinned out. The old lamps, okay? When you walk in, we used to have lamps. They have recessed lighting. So that's where we're going to spend some cash is probably get some recessed lighting in the house, which when you have a before and after picture, the absolute first thing that hits your eyes when you see a before and after picture is the after picture has recessed lights. First thing after rehab, you look at it, it's like, oh, that looks cool. Mm-hmm. and there you see this old lamp. So your eyes immediately go to recessed lighting, as opposed to an old lamp in the ceiling, or
And the old lamps don't really give off that much light, so
Yeah.
it doesn't really brighten up the space. If you put 2 can lights in, I
Right.
mean, it's going to completely change the room.
So let's get rid of all the old antique lamps that are lighting your house. You know, a replacement for that is what do you buy? Where do you go to? Home Fair or Home Wayfair?
Oh,
or whatever.
Wayfair.
Wayfair. You get the lamps that are going up and
Yeah.
hitting the white ceiling, and a lot of times the recessed lights hit a floor and they rebound off the floor. These are the exact opposite. They'll come up and they'll rebound off,
Yeah.
and that's what lights up the ceiling. So remove or thin out all the big furniture. Get the big pieces you can out. You have to move. A lot of times we may recommend for houses that have a big, hey Michelle, can you do me a favor? Can you just grab me some water real quick? I'm starting to,
I have tea. Oh, no.
let me take a sip out of the pink tea chopper here.
Aren't you glad it's there?
Wow. It's a hydrate flask. I would not have expected anything less of you girls to bring in 2 pink, big monster things of something to drink. So a lot of times, sometimes it'll be so decluttered that we need to consider 2 moves. Call All-Star Movers and say, I need to remove 4 or 5 big pieces. Let's store them somewhere off-site. When we move, we'll pick them up on our way to our new house. But let's get them out of the house right now, okay? So thinning out some of the large furniture, removing all the items from the countertops in the kitchen so we have space. Now let's say that you have that little thing that has all your spoons and, you know,
Yeah.
whatever you call that stuff, right?
China cabinet.
No,
No,
not
no,
a
no.
china cabinet. You
Your
have your
serving
utensils.
spoons and all that stuff. Get some new stuff.
I would
Make
dump
it look-
all of them and just buy all
throw it out and
new,
buy. Go to where William and Sonoma or something like that, or
Or I would just go
Barn.
to Bed Bath and Beyond
Bed
and use
Bath
your
and Beyond.
20% coupon and buy all new wood, you know.
going with your wad of 20% off
Yes.
coupons and get that. But this is the time to consider, in my new house, am I bringing this old stuff or am I going to get some new stuff? Well, you're going to get, thank you very much. No, you're going to get some new stuff, right? So let's do it now. Linens.
Yeah.
You're going to get some new linens in your new house? Get it now. Bring in the new linens. All over the bathroom should have
Towels.
new linens. Towels should be new. So get that stuff now.
And those are cheap. I mean, that stuff is so cheap. You know, new towels, new bath mats. Just,
Right.
you don't want people to see old and dingy.
Michelle, that's some high quality H2O right there. I don't know where you got that from, but they had a bottle that. That's good.
It's in the machine.
She's like the faucet.
I just dipped her right in the toilet there, boss. Well, we got some high quality H2O here at Samson Properties. I can tell you that right now. All right. Other things you got to get out. Get the Oriental rugs out of the house. I mean, you got them under tables, you got them under couches, you got them under things. Really, you need, Michelle, have I just emptied out most of your house?
But they're coming back into style. Like, look at
Yeah,
Ryan.
no.
Michelle is
No,
the
no,
opposite
no.
buyer. She's
I can tell you.
1%.
I can tell you this. Pam and I went into a house, and it was really, we talked about the hardware. And sellers will go, gold is making a comeback. Gold ain't making a comeback.
So,
Just going to tell you.
Category.
If gold's making a comeback, I don't know. Because when we would go in and look at it and say, how many people decide that they're going to go with the gold, the answer is 0. They don't even offer it on the chart of what it is you want. Now they have a rose gold, which is kind of a bronze.
yeah, which
Rose
is
gold
nice.
is
I
stunning.
mean, if you do it tastefully, I will say you'll see gold making a comeback. But it's not your
It's
mother's
trendy.
gold. It's
It's
trendy.
trendy.
So it's very straight lines.
Yeah.
It's very, modern,
Modern.
I guess you
It's
would
modern.
say.
Modern
Yeah.
original rugs coming back. Like, ruggable, they're great.
I got news for you. Modern and Oriental are not in the same sentence. Those are historically done rugs. Okay.
You know that buyer pool? Michelle.
Michelle. Fire pool.
We need
Michelle.
big buyer pools.
Or if you do it tastefully, the thing is, the key to, upgrading a house is having a little bit of traditional and a little bit of mud.
not
You're supposed to have
overwhelming.
no. You're supposed to have different pieces. If you have an Oriental rug, then put a jute rug or a natural fibers rug in another room, or go. You don't want the entire house to be weighed down, but you can throw
Yeah.
pieces in here and there to really.
It's also about style too. She's going to come into a transitional home and want to do her thing and put in her own Oriental rug,
But it's
whatever
easier
it
to do
is.
that in a transitional home than in a
Yes.
traditional home.
Exactly.
More of a blank canvas.
Yeah.
In other
Yeah.
words, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get your eyes off of the stuff and onto the space.
Yes.
And just feel comfortable in the space. And you said it, Kelly, before we went on the air. You said, in looking for a new house, you don't want to do anything. You don't want to
No.
fix anything. You don't want to put any knobs in. You don't want to paint anything. You don't want to do any of that stuff when you walk in that house. Now, this taking into account that your husband is a hands-on, fix it,
He does
that's all he
everything.
wants to do. And you've done everything for your house, and your house looks great and everything, and he does everything.
But now we have
you don't
2
wanna buy it.
kids, 2 dogs, and we're buying space
And 2 jobs.
And 2 jobs. Yeah, we both work full time, and I don't want to do anything.
Right.
I want to move in. I want the house to be painted. I want the hardware to be updated. I want the bathroom to be in decent shape. I can do that down the road, but as long as it is brought up to date with minor things that I don't have to worry about when I move in.
Well, I think at that point, the canvas is done. You can put on personal.
I can put on the
You
personal
can
touches.
focus your
yeah.
time, energy, and money on personalizing.
Decorate
Yes.
it however you want.
Yeah.
You just need to see what the house actually looks like without someone else's decorations.
That's right.
And
Right.
I don't want to paint an entire house. I don't want to have to change out all the hardware. I mean, by the time Cody gets home from work at 6 o'clock, he's not going to go around and change out our hardware, So I think that a lot of people are looking for that.
Yeah, yeah. And it is because a lot of people now, prices the way they are and the economy the way it is, you have a lot of people that the wives work.
Yeah.
Husbands and wives both work. So you have 2 income families, and they just don't have time for it. So I guess here's what it is. Let's go back to the 80-10-10. Some people are looking for a house that's a dumpster fire. Some people want a house that's absolutely just 100% brand new, and the other in that spectrum somewhere. But most of them don't want to fix up a house. They want as much as we can do to this house done. So all they have to do is come in and put in some personal touch.
Yeah.
So that comes to the point of now, so, on CaseySamson.com/staging, you can see this is the less is more. This is the 10 no-cost ways of doing it. Getting rid of screens, window treatments, knickknacks, thinning bookcases, get rid of the old lamps, get rid of the carpets, the Oriental rugs, thin out the large furniture, clean out the countertops, clean out, if you're looking at a table by your bed, everything's off it but one lamp. It's all that should be on that thing. So this is show quality ready stuff, and none of it has cost any money so far. Oriental rugs, get rid of the plants, and so I think that when you do that, the house will then kind of reveal itself, And now we start looking like we're at no money spent. We've just gone from one and I'll be honest with you, I go into so many houses, and we go into these houses like, who's talking to the Now let me. There are again 80-10-10. There are some sellers that aren't going to touch the thing. I mean, I've had
Yeah.
right? I'm not touching the thing. We just finished one. We just sold one.
Yeah.
And there are other people that will do whatever you say. We just
We
sold
just
that one
sold
too.
another one.
Just sold that one too, right? So we basically have them all, and the way you compensate for the ones that don't want to do anything is you just price it.
Yeah.
You gotta price it to sell, and you're going to put in your time, energy, and money. You're going to be replacing the carpets. You're going to be doing the painting. So whatever that cost is going to be, our estimate, I'm going to double it. And that's what your price is going to be. So I think we estimated $25,000 worth of work on that house. We cut the price about $50,000, and away it went. So we've given you the 10 things to do with no cost. Now let's just move on really quick to the 10 things that you can do to a house that it's going to cost you some money, but your return on investment, if you put X amount of dollars in, you're going to get X times 3 back, okay? I think the first one is easy, and that is painting.
Yeah.
Okay. And sometimes you're going through and you're trying to piecemeal, and we're trying not to paint the whole house. We're trying to just paint a level or rooms or things like that. And as you walk through the house, it's like, no.
You
know,
have to paint everything.
There comes a time where you're just like, we got to paint everything. It's just got to be done, you know?
And buyers will notice too, if the first level looks all fresh and then they go upstairs and it's just beat up, I mean, it just
Right.
kind of shows that you didn't take as much pride or, care.
You're putting on a show
Yeah.
on one level and not on the other level.
And you want it to all flow also.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. And that is true. You know, when people try and cut too many corners,
Yeah.
they shoot themselves in the foot. So but paint is by far the premier return on investment. It's a cleaner look, it's a newer look, it's a fresher look. And basically, the buyer's coming in going, I got to paint this damn thing. I got to put up $200,000. I got to pay closing costs. I got to pay moving. I got movers. I got all this stuff, and I got to put out.
That's
$8,000
exactly
for
what I'm
paint.
thinking. When I look at houses, I don't want to paint an entire house.
Yeah.
You're so worried about moving all of your stuff in, getting everything there, and then you got to paint it too. Like,
But sometimes too, it's not even them looking at it saying, "Oh my gosh, I have to paint it." But a lot of times they walk in, they can't envision how it would look
Yeah.
if it were painted. Some people just
buyers have no
you know,
imagination.
yeah.
They really don't. And
Yeah.
it takes, you got to sell a couple hundred houses before you realize buyers have no imagination. They can't do it. If you have a house and you say you're just going to have to envision it, again, here's a buyer pool. Our job is to, through pricing, through conditioning, through everything, is to build the buyer pool up. But when you do some things, it tears the buyer pool down. So all we're trying to do is get as many people through the door as possible so they can bid on the house and we can get the highest best offer in the quickest amount of time. So let's talk. So we know that painting is the number one thing, okay? When you walk up in front of a house and you're standing at the front door, this is a key focal point for me because I always say, oh, well, you want to go upstairs? I know what the upstairs looks like. I mean, standing at your front door, I knew what your bathroom looked like. I can just tell you. Because if you have proper maintenance and clean hardware and everything looks great and everything is perfect, I know your master bedroom bath looks the exact same way. It's awesome. And I know your kitchen's going to be great. So pretty much I'm going to walk through the house just to confirm the rest of the house looks like this front door. But you show cobwebs and this and that and
Chipped paint,
old
gold,
door, and
yeah.
worn out, and you've got a gold knocker on the front door and the original handles and all that stuff. It's like, I have a house that needs a lot of maintenance. And I don't need to go upstairs to tell you. I'm just confirming when I go up there what exactly needs to be done to this house. So, people need to pay specific attention to the front of the house and the door of the house and the door knockers and the doorknobs and the paint and the actual door. Sometimes that's a builder grade door. It's not a newer, nicer door. There is cobwebs all over the place. For gosh sakes, it just shows that if there's a cobweb, that nobody's touched that thing in 3 years or 5 years. So, you really need to freshen up the front of your house. Even as you're living in it, you need to freshen up the front of your house. That includes the beds, the mulching, the things like that, okay? So a little landscaping as people are walking up. They're forming opinions of your house on their way up to the front door. So we need to make sure that that's pretty much done. When we talk about removing stuff, you did a great job with, I'm still in shock that we got as much money as we did for, what's the one, farms, wheat.
Oh, yeah.
I think that was your masterpiece because literally it was going to be a very big challenge because it had not been updated. And a lot of times, for whatever reason, the wife may have a job in another town and the husband is left to sell the house and the husband's been living in the house for a year or two and it looks like the husband lived in the house. Or there's been a divorce and now we're just dealing with the husband's house. I walked into one house, I swear this is a true story. Billy and I walked into a house and I said, well, we need to paint this house because this is really, we need to paint this house. And he said, what do you mean? The painter just left. I said, what do you mean the painter just left? He said, I said, what kind of colors are this? He goes, they're Redskin colors. I'm looking for a Redskin fan. I'm going to sell this house to a Redskin fan. And that is why you don't leave men on their own, because they will do stupid stuff like that. They'll paint a house in Redskin colors. And literally, Billy and I were like this. We said, are we gonna paint this? He goes, nope, I already painted it. We went, okay. I looked at him, I said, hey man, you wanna go to the inn and get a pop? He goes, sure, let's go. It's like, we can't help you, man. Because this house is gonna sit for a long, long, long time. And, you know, we have an efficient system where we only charge 4.5% to list and sell a house. And in order to do that, we just can't take on 2-year-long projects. So if the house is ready, if we can get the right price, the house is in good shape, and yada, 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 and we can put it on, and then we have reasonable sellers, it's going to sell within the first 30 days. That's the way our system is more efficient. That way we can keep our costs down. But so we just don't take on, you know, something. Perfect example. Again, Billy and I went to a house. It was listed for $2.25 million, and I said, don't get married to this listing. It's like, we have a listing appointment. Do not get married that we're going to take this listing, because it's, in my estimate, $450,000 overpriced. So do not get married to this listing. So we went in, and first question, who decided it was going to be 2.25? And he said, the realtor did. I said, fine. I said, do you know that's overpriced? He goes, oh man, it's crazy price. I said, fine, we can deal with this. So he and I both agreed it was worth $1.8 million. We got a contract fairly, you know, quickly, even though it was a $1.8 million in Oakton, and got it sold, and it had been on the market for 1.5 years at over $2 million. So as long as the seller is reasonable, we can move forward with this. But so let's talk about some of the other things you did with that house. You brought in some of those Wayfair carpets, or because you had a big sun.
So they had a big. It was pretty much vacant. You put in. You know, I like Wayfair because they're cheap. They have a huge variety. They're good quality. So I always put in, you know, or I always recommend just buying some neutral Wayfair carpets. And I also think replacing carpet. Yeah. They with the textured Berber, it goes a long way. It looks great. Yeah. It's not too expensive, but again, that's a cost that a new buyer does not want to, you know, have to worry about, deal with. And
you're talking about, when you're selling a house, the difference between a good sale and a bad sale, 50,000, 100,000, you know, a good 5, 8, 9% of the house. I mean, that's what's at play.
I mean, in a nutshell, I would just paint, change out the hardware, and replace the carpet. If you want to do nothing else, those 3 things will completely transform a house.
Biggest bang for the buck.
Yeah, absolutely. And recessed lights.
And what?
Mark, I think we're getting close to the end of time. You had a couple more topics you wanted to talk about.
We're talking, man.
I know.
If they need to get another cup of coffee, they can get another cup of coffee. Like my director.
It's like 2 p.m. and we're like, I
know. It's 2 p.m. and we're still going. All right. So yeah, the hardware in the doors. Yeah, and then freshen things up. The kitchen stuff. Freshen. If you're going to buy something new, freshen it up. Freshen up the things. So we've got things you can do at no cost. Things you can do at minor cost that will transform the house from the traditional look. And you know, a seller, you really kind of have to look in the mirror and go, yeah, you know, it's not me. You know, it's no offense. It's just the tradition needs to go more towards what the buyers are worth, and that's how we do it. Okay. So, you know, focus on the pricing. Get the condition set the way it should be. It shouldn't take too long. If we need professional help, if we really need to get new bathrooms and new kitchens and new things in, at that point, then it becomes a more serious discussion that we'll talk about that. But that's not our norm.
And I was going to say, it's actually a good thing that, you know, buyers do want transitional, because all transitional is just a mix between traditional and with a little bit of contemporary.
Right.
If we walked in saying, you know, every buyer wants contemporary, it's like,
we're out of luck.
Yeah, like you won't know what to do. But these are just minor changes that can totally transform your house.
They're minor changes, but they are critical changes.
Yeah.
They are
They'll make the world of
absolutely
difference.
100% critical to getting these houses sold. Okay. So, anyways, all right. Let's go on then. We'll talk about market conditions. You know, it's year end, and we take at the end of the year, we kind of go back and check on everything. You know, where are we currently with market conditions? On CaseySamson.com, you go to the very bottom of the page, and it will show you some key markets that we may follow or work in. It shows you the market conditions for Fairfax County, Loudoun County, Prince William County, Vienna, Oakton, specific ones. So let me tell you how to read that when you look at that. If it is at a 33%, that means that 33% of the homes on the market are under contract. Now, consider a lot of them didn't do the work we just talked about, aren't priced correctly. So 50% of the market to 60% of the market is actually not very saleable, overpriced or poor condition. So for you to have 44% of your houses under contract or 50% of the house under contract, you're pretty much in a very, very strong seller's market. If it's good, if it's competitive, if it looks good, you're going to get your contracts in the first weekend. So that is a right this second. If you look on that site, I'll say Vienna is at 42%, and that's improved. Last month it was maybe 30%. So when you see it's improving, then those are markets that are good and competitive markets, good for sellers markets. We basically represent a lot of sellers, so good to us is a good sellers market. All of them have really, most of them have really improved. All the counties have improved. So, we come to when is the best month. I think by the way, Julie, I was looking over the blog today before we came in here. Really, that looks great, the way you've got that whole thing set up. If anybody is looking for information, real estate market, tips, anything, go to the blog at CaseySamson.com. Julie does a great job updating that. It's not just all the open house stuff, but it's very, very well done and has a lot of information. But one of them is, what's the best month to sell your house? Well, if you look at how many houses are put on the market and how many houses get contracts, okay, so in the spring, this many houses go on the market that month, and this is how many contracts you have. But in December, this is how many houses went on the market, and this is how many contracts were written. So, just in one sample market last year, it was 24 houses went on the market, but 37 houses went under contract, which tells me that a lot of people are taking their inventory off, and whatever's left on there is selling. And because there's less competition, and people just got the word that Amazon's moving into town, that, this company's moving into that company. So people need to buy houses, and when the inventory goes down, the sellers are in more control. So December is a solid month to put it on. I know everybody's busy with their holidays and plans, and if you are too busy and you need to wait till the spring, which starts in January the 15th, that's fine. But don't hold back, and don't take your house off the market in December, because that's when everybody else takes their house off the market. So it's a smart thing to leave it on the market. Julie also put on there the small team, big team comparison and the versus the big agent. And there's a comparison on a seller needs to first decide whether they want a big agent, big team, or what's considered a small team, which is a team that has under 10 people. So as Kelly will tell you, and reminds me all the time, that when she decided to start working, I said, I don't want.
You don't do teams.
I don't do teams. I don't want to have a team. I don't want to be responsible for anybody, and I'm not going to do it, But then, I started working with Julie, and that was great. And then you came along, and then Pat came along, and before I know it, we started building, and it's you're right. You were right. It's perfect. So the small teams are a combination of a more older, experienced people with very bright young people that can that are keen to marketing. Michelle and Julie are into communication skills and their marketing skills and the social media stuff. And Kelly with what buyers are looking for, and Morgan with the style and their negotiation. So it really is the small teams will take some of the older, more experienced agents, team them up with these really young, dynamic agents. Now, you'll see some like Sue Goddard has got one in Old Town Alexandria, and Jen Walker has one in Old Town Alexandria. They're listed in the Wall Street Journal as well as we are. But I think it's the small teams, we have control, there's a lot of control. We had $12 million worth of settlements this month.
Yeah.
And you and I probably did 7,500, or 7.5 million, right? 8 million. And it goes smooth. Everything goes smooth. And the reason is because they're set right, priced right. I can meet with every seller. I can make changes like you saw the other day. If the house isn't done right, I can get back out there. We can make our changes we need to make the pricing change, and get that under contract. So in a big, big team, I could never do. My job would be spent trying to get leads for all the agents.
And it's more personalized service.
Yeah, it is personalized. It really is. And so, and then, you know, if I'd gone with the big agent where I just want to be a big agent, do everything myself, you know, I get in that path that some of them are in. And I was showing the example the other day that I was at a big realtor. I was at a big realtor convention. I was very upset. Very, very upset. I'll tell you about it. Well, I was upset because all anyone could talk about was getting new leads, right? And getting new recruiting agents and getting leads. And that's all anybody could talk about. And I'm sure Sue Goddard Goodhart thought the same thing. It's like, what are you people talking about? I mean, now one group was talking about how you sell houses or technology for selling houses, what's the best way to start, how do you target, how do you use geofencing to find the buyers, how do you do this kind of transition and transit. You know, they're not talking about how to sell houses or how quick you can sell them. So the big agent that was the rock star of the whole thing, she's sitting on $55 million worth of unsold listings. $55 million. 1.5 is under contract. 55 is not under contract. That's the rock star. I'm in shock. I literally, my priorities are wrong. Huh?
Said to other realtors, maybe not to the sellers.
Not to the sellers. So if we're trying to, you know, I guess the point is that a big agent may be able to be a rock star, but I'm a football coach. I keep score. I keep score. How many do you have that aren't sold? How many do you have that are sold? So in a football team, you'd be 1 in 55. 1 win, 55 losses. I want to make sure we're always, you know, 9 out of 10. We're 9-1 every year, 9-1 or 9.5-1. So to me, to a small team, because I don't worry about recruiting Kelly and Morgan. I don't want anybody else coming on the team. So we don't worry about recruiting. And the way we get our business is we sell what we have. And Julie's sitting over here, and she knows our whole marketing thing is you sell it, you tell everybody you sold it, and other people will come to you. And that's it. That's the marketing. And so we try and gauge ourselves on our success of selling real estate. Others try and gauge themselves on how much of a rock star they are. So anyways, that is, what else do we have, Michelle? Do we have anything else? Do we have any public appearances we're going on?
Amazon.
Huh?
What?
Amazon.
Yeah, you wanted to talk about the ramifications of Tyson's and Virginia Tech.
So Tyson's Corner, where we went to, by the way, I got to get one of these.
I know, it's
This is
amazing.
pretty-
I think
pretty
pink's
good.
your color too.
Huh?
I think pink's your color.
I don't
too.
think pink's my color.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a sensitive guy. I do have a pink shirt on.
There you go. Match.
That's only because this is what Nick Saban wears. So anyway, I went to the Tyson's Corner, you know, the Transforming Tyson's. So this is amazing what's happening out there. And I mean, you literally are going to have 100,000 jobs there currently. There's going to be 200,000 jobs, which means they have 100,000 to go. And I would not be shocked if we don't hear within the next month that Apple has decided to move take a huge chunk of Scott's Run, which is over on one corner of the Tyson's complex. But let's talk about what employment centers and bedroom communities. So Vienna, I would consider, Falls Church, I would consider to be bedroom communities to Washington, D.C. The big employment centers, which are Alexandria, Washington, and Arlington. So the average person will commute 30 minutes from their work. And Morgan, again, brilliant when you first came in, you said, well, how much can I get for $750 over there and out here and here and here and here? So what we did was we went to Arlington and said, give us what can I get in $750 there? Then we went out every, stop along 66. in Falls Church, in Vienna, in Centerville, in Oakton, in Oak Hill, and and so on and so forth. Until we got out to Percival, for God's sakes.
Yeah,
You
who
have a
goes
condo
there?
in Arlington, huh?
I said, yeah, who goes there?
Yeah, who the heck goes to Percival?
I love Percival.
I know you do. I like Percival
Oh, you
too.
live there.
Don't be surprised if you don't see a neighbor out there one day. So you go from a $750,000 condominium in Alexandria to a mansion with pools and 4,800 square feet and 5 acres of land in Percival. So the question is, you need something more than a condo, but maybe you don't need a 4,800 square foot mansion with pools and da-da-da-da-da. And it's a lifestyle deal, but the average person is about 30 minutes away. That's their average commuting time. Well, 30 minutes away from Crystal City and everything that's going to go on down there is Vienna and Oakton. And to a lesser extent, you've got McLean over here, which is a little shorter, but McLean feeds on Arlington and Washington, D.C. And Arlington usually feeds down the Route 66 corridor, which is Falls Church, Vienna, Oakton, Centerville, Chantilly, that kind of stuff. So I think those are going to be the big winners. How long does it take to get out here? It will take time for them to start recruiting people in. Is there going to be a change? I think it's more important now that houses are more transition towards contemporary, because now a person, just think about it, a person coming out of Seattle to Oakton, those are two diametrically changed markets. I mean, this is just, I'm not saying an Oakton house has to turn into a contemporary house of Seattle, but you have to make the effort now for these buyers of at least listening and going through the process of do the 10 things that don't cost anything, do the paint, at least get the house ready, start getting the house ready. If you're planning on moving in the next 5 years, you need to start doing all of this stuff now, progressing so you can enjoy the house where you're living in it. If you're going to remodel the kitchen, remodel bathrooms, and do all that, you better be living in the house for at least about 7, 8, 10 years. Because then you need to do that for yourself. You're not going to get your money back, but you need to do it to have personal enjoyment while you're in the house. And if somebody puts an addition on, we had somebody that overbuilt a neighborhood extremely much, then you should be there for 20, 25 years and enjoy it and live in it. And that's where you want to live, and this is the kind of house you want to be in, and you're going to stay there for 25 years because you're never going to get that money back. We had somebody take a $750,000 house, put $300,000 in it, and had to sell it for $900 and something. So he literally lost $150,000 because he put too much money in, and he sold it almost right away. And you just can't do that. So be very careful, with that kind of investment. But that's who the winners are that I see in Amazon. I see it starting fairly quickly. We did not have a good year in most of Fairfax County. Inventory was low. The buyer pool was not massive. We weren't seeing fighting over houses. So what is the spring going to hold? Who knows? All we have to say is currently we're in a seller's market in most of our major markets around here. As more people take their house off the market for the holidays, I think you ought to stay on the market because the buyers are out there, and we've got things. Buyers are still out there, so I wouldn't go anywhere. Michelle, do we have anything else?
5 tips for 2019 sellers.
Oh, 5 tips. That's the next show.
Okay.
The next show. That'll be December.
To be continued.
Whatever. To be continued. Oh, I ran out of time. But anyways, see, this was not so painful, was it?
No.
And you enjoyed it, didn't you?
Yes.
So you'll do it again, won't you?
Yes.
And
Every
didn't you enjoy
Thursday.
it?
No.
It's so funny because Kelly can be quiet from time to time, but then you get her out of the house and you're like, did you smoke? It's like, why didn't you say that in there? So, anyways, very opinionated.
she doesn't know how
Once
to
we turn off the mics, they're going to be very opinionated. I guarantee you that. All right, anything else? Anything else we need to cover? Did
No.
we do it?
I think we got it.
All right, Rockstar. All right, we good? Julie, thank you very much. The website is at CaseySamson.com. What we talked about today was staging. So it's CaseySamson.com/staging. But the rest of the website really covers everything you need to know if you're selling or buying a house. The blog is excellent. That gives all our opinions on what we've been saying. The Coffee with Casey's, blah, blah, blah. If you can live through my yakking. But it seems like every time we do one of these, there's some information, really good information that gets out. So, anyways, thank you to Michelle for all your hard work. Julie, another great year. We've done it again. The website is launched and looks great. Leslie, as always, thank you very much for being the social media guru here at Samson Properties. You really put a nice touch on Samson Properties. They look very, very professional. So thank you for getting this done for us. My daughter Morgan and my daughter Kelly. My name is Casey Samson. You can reach me at casey@caseysamson.com, or you can give me a call at 703-508-2535. And yes, I will answer the phone. Stay classy, Vienna. All right, that's a wrap.